Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I hope everybody's having an absolutely fantastic day today. As always, we are going to give about 5 or so minutes just to give everybody a chance to join. Sometimes people remember a little bit late about the webinar, so we're just going to give a couple of minutes. In the meantime, we can have a little chat, grab a coffee if you need to, and then we can dive right into it. In the meantime, my name is Michaela. I am the senior sales agent here at the Urban Writers. I've been at the Urban Writers for quite a while as well, so if you are a customer of ours or a freelancer, chances are you may have spoken to me in the past. So hi again in that case. Um, yeah, please in the comments do let me know where you guys are from, who particularly is like. We're actually heading into summer soon in the next month or two. It's for winter in South Africa, so hopefully it stays like that for a little while. Yeah, tell me where you're from. I'm always interested in knowing where everybody's from, who I'm presenting to, who I'm chatting with. And also tell me why you're interested in historical fiction, what made you interested in this topic from the get go. Trish says it's a little bit difficult to hear me. Um, can anybody else confirm if they're having struggles to hear me? Then I can quickly go ahead. We've turned off the music, so hopefully that's fine now. We tested it beforehand. Um, okay, so we have someone from. Okay. So on our side, it does seem fine. If we are having issues, okay. We are. Let us quickly check our sound. Good thing we're giving it 5 minutes for everybody to join. Give us 1 second, and then we'll be right back. There we go. Let's test our sound. Is this better? Okay, well, we have people from Italy, India, interesting. Okay. Okay, I'm talking. Everybody hear me? I do apologize about the delay, everybody. We did test this beforehand. We're not quite sure what's going on. Buzzing. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Okay, how about now? Okay. Let's see. Okay, this is fine. Okay, no, okay, lose the track. I am so sorry. Um, we should be fine now. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we can dive right in. Everybody has had a moment to join as well. So, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We will be going over crafting captivating historical fiction epics. So, this is a very exciting topic for me. I am a fiction writer, so I am very excited about this. If you have any questions, do pop them in the chat. I will go over everything at the end if there is time. If we don't get to all of the questions, we will be answering them in the comments. We will be responding to you after as well. Alrighty, let's dive right in. So, first off, a little bit about me. My name is Michaela. I am the senior sales agent here at the Open Writers. I've been a professional ghostwriter for 7 years. I've written over 270 books. Ghostwritten, of course. I've not published anything myself, although we are working on that. And then, yeah, I've specialized in both fiction and fiction, and I've been at the Urban Writers for more than 5 years now, 5.5, I believe. Okay, next up, I am just going to take you through what the Urban Writers and who the Urban Writers is as a company. So it was founded in 2018 by Marco and Natasha Matinho. We started out with a handful of writers, literally only started with nonfiction. We had outsourced our editing stuff as well. And now we have over 5,000 creative minds on the platform. We handle everything from creating your outline all the way through to actually doing your audiobooks as well. So all you have to do is go in and just publish what we deliver to you. Now we've written over 1 billion words and we have over 20,000 active satisfied customers on our platform as well. So we are evolving into Dibbly. So you might have seen the name Dibbly floating around. Dibbly is basically our mother company, and the Urban Writers is a branch of Dibbly. We also do have Dibbly Create, which is a content creation tool. It's absolutely fantastic. If you haven't checked it out already, do go ahead and do that. But yeah, if you do see Dibbly floating around, it is because it is a part of the Urban Writers as well. Okay, next we're going to hop into our agenda of what we're going to go over today. So first off, we're going to go over understanding historical epics. We're also going to go over research and world building, character development, plot structures, and storytelling. And then we might do a writing workshop at the very end. If we don't get to it, it's not the biggest deal. It was just a little bit of an extra thing that we might have added. And then we're going to have the Q&A at the very end. Now, let's hop right into understanding historical epics. Now, what constitutes a historical epic? So there are a couple of bullet points on the screen at the moment. The first one is a rich historical setting. Now, a historical epic basically immerses readers in a vividly detailed and realistic setting. It gives you a historical backdrop and actually captures the essence of that moment in time as well. There are intricate descriptions, rich histories, because you don't have to make anything up. You can just grab whatever is in history. And then, of course, any historical events and relevant events in that specific historical era. We also have intricate plot lines. So these books, they feature multifaceted, interconnected plot lines between generations of characters and continents and any other historical events as well. Yeah, so basically the story just weaves together different arcs and conflicts and subplots, all themed around historical events and historical places. Next, we have complex characters. Now, historical epic fiction, it basically often showcases a diverse cast of character depths, nuances, and development. Protagonists and antagonists are portrayed with layers of personality, motivations, and flaws. And because you can take inspiration from history, you can make it extremely realistic as well. And that's what historical fiction readers want, right? They want to immerse themselves into a day and age that is not the present. We also do have epic scale. So basically, these books encompass grand and sweeping narratives that span vast periods of time. You can go all the way back to the creation of man, all the way up to the 1800s. Historical fiction doesn't necessarily have a time period in which it takes place, as long as it is historical. The most popular ones, of course, are 1800s, 1700s, that sort of thing. But you can do 1970s, 1960s, and weave that kind of history into your book as well. And then historical accuracy too. When you are doing a historical fiction book, it needs to be historically accurate, or at least kind of historically accurate. Um, there's a book, oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of it now, but it basically is a retelling of Alexander the Great. And it's absolutely fantastic. I wish I could remember the name. But there are so many things that they've changed, but there are also a majority of things that they kept. And certain events that actually did take place, they created backstories to, which made it such an incredibly rich tale that they could tell, still stay historically accurate. Those backstories are very, very viable. These are things that we don't know if that actually happened or not, but there's a good possibility that it actually did. And again, that is something that historical fiction readers do want in a book. Now, what is the appeal of a historical fiction epic? So first off, we need emotional connection. Okay. Um, if there we go, we just quickly want to move on to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So first one, we want emotional connection. So historical fiction allows readers to connect emotionally with the past by weaving compelling narratives around historical events that, of course, actually happened, as historical figures as well. These are personal stories about characters that we've heard of and we know of and we've learned in history lessons about, but we don't really have an emotional connection to those. Historical fiction books actually create that connection. We also do want educational value, because we want it to be at least vaguely accurate. It serves as a gateway to learning about history and engaging in an engaging and accessible way. Okay, so by blending factual details and things that you've come up with, fiction, of course, by uh, having an imaginative storytelling, it offers the readers nuanced understanding of past societies, events, cultures, people, um, and of course, sparking an interest to further that knowledge as well. So they will go in and they will look up other historical events in that time, and it's just going to spark an interest for them as well. I was never interested in historical writing or reading for that matter until excuse me, until I read some specific books, the book that I actually can't remember. And now it's a massive thing that I actually want to go in and learn about certain things. I went through down an entire rabbit hole about Alexander the Great at that moment in time because I was so incredibly interested, and that is what you want to spark in your reader. Um, we also do have humanizing history. So With historical events, it's very easy to just brush it off as fiction. There are things that happened in history that we kind of forget about, and it kind of seems unreal. Again, Alexander the Great, for example, as an example, it sounds so incredibly unreal. And historical fiction actually humanizes that history as well. So it basically portrays historical figures and events in a relatable and humanistic light. Okay, so they Alexander the Great was a human. He had emotions, he had feelings, he had specific goals that he wanted to reach in life, which we don't learn just by having a history lesson about it. So having an historical epic and humanizing that history and humanizing characters as well is extremely important to create a historical epic novel. We also have cultural exploration. So basically, through describing historical settings, customs, traditions, societal norms, historical fiction enables readers to immerse themselves in different cultures and in different time periods and basically put them in the shoes of somebody that existed hundreds of years ago, depending, of course, when you want your historical fiction to take place. But it basically it means they can time travel to a different time. And again, that is something that you do want from a historical fiction novel. And then finally, we have historical reflection. So, historical fiction encourages readers to critically reflect on past events, decisions, and consequences. Basically, learn from other people's mistakes by presenting multiple perspectives in a book and interpretations of history. It prompts the readers to question assumptions that they've made and are making about specific things that did happen in history. It explores moral dilemmas and how you would differently handle certain things, or if you maybe agreed with something in the past, maybe after something like this, and reading a little bit about how things impacted other people, it might just change your views as well. Because most often than not, if a historical book takes place in a time period where something terrible happened, um, those books are about people who it affected. Okay, it doesn't need to be a famous person. It can just be about a specific event and the people that it affected, and there was maybe pushed from their homes or had to relocate or lost people in the process as well. And that again humanizes the history as well. Alrighty, our next slide will go over research and world building. And our first thing that we are going to go over is research. So, the first thing that we want to do is make sure it's authentic. You need to do thorough research when you are doing an historical fiction novel to make sure that it is accurate and authentic, and that the historical details, including settings, events, customs, dress codes, the way people communicate, all of that is needs to be authentic. Okay, so the authenticity enhances the reader's or well enhances the credibility of the narrative, and it can immerse the reader further as well. Credibility as well, it basically ties into one another. Research helps writers avoid inaccuracies in when they are writing. Okay, so you want the book, you want it to be credible. You want the reader to know that wow, this person did a lot of research in this book. It is very accurate. When they go and look up something, they can say, oh wow, the reader actually incorporated this specific detail into this book as well. So it is very important that you do a lot of research. Whenever you are writing an historical fiction novel, and I've had this question asked before, the most important thing is to do your research. Your whatever event you are choosing to do, it's I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but it is not important as the research that you are doing surrounding that event and that period of time as well. Next, we have contextual understanding. So, in depth research provides writers with a deeper understanding of the historical context in which their story is set. This knowledge allows writers to integrate historical events, societal norms, and cultural practices seamlessly into the narrative. Okay, it enriches the storytelling experience from point A to point C. Next up, we have character development. Now, this is something that is in all fiction books. Character development is crucial. But with historical fiction, research allows the writer to create realistic and compelling characters that reflect attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors prevalent in that historical period. Characters who resonate with the historical context contributes to the authenticity and depth of the narrative as well. So, character development is crucial when you are writing an historical novel surrounding a specific historical figure. Make sure that you incorporate their development throughout the story. Okay, well, with any story that you do write, not just about a specific character, but it makes it easier when you are writing about a specific character to do your research and see how they've grown through their story and add that into your story as well. You can weave some fiction in here and there, but make sure that you do incorporate all of those details. We also do have plot development. Now, you guys will agree with me on this. History is it's basically a fiction book on its own. It's wild. It's a wild ride. There are some things that happened that seem very, very, very impossible, and but it is real. And historical research can inspire plot ideas and conflicts and resolutions based on a real historical event or certain circumstances. Um, yeah, so it's again plot development. Do your research. Make sure that you are checking stories and if it's about a specific character, the stories that they are involved in. Make sure that you are actually taking inspiration from it as well. Don't just plop down a character in a random setting or a random plot. Weave some truth into it as well and take inspiration from history. We also have thematic exploration. So, research helps explore and interpret historical themes and issues relevant to specific time periods. And by delving into social, political, and cultural dynamics from the past, writers can address themes such as power, identity, justice, resilience, with nuance and with depth. And finally, we have reader engagement, where basically thorough research can enhance a reader's engagement by providing a rich and immersive reading experience. Alrighty, next up we have world building. Again, this is also part of research, so buckle in. So, detailed descriptions. Um, Basically, it paints a vivid and detailed description of historical settings, including architecture, landscape, clothing, and everyday objects. Um, it just helps transport a reader to a different time. Some people in specific time periods had different words for different things. Um, uh, Chamber, or your quarters could be your bedroom nowadays. Of course, it doesn't directly translate, but do make sure that you are using the correct terminology for certain things. And when you are creating a new place, it doesn't need to be a place that already exists or existed. Make sure that you are getting inspiration from other places that existed in that time period. There are many places that are still standing, where you can get a lot of research from and a lot of details from that you can incorporate into a new place, a castle, a courtyard, something like that that you can create based on something that already exists. We also have language and dialogue. So language is crucial to an historical fiction novel. You want to use the right words at the right time. It's if you look at something from the 1800s, the way that they speak is going to be significantly different to the way that we communicate nowadays. And although it doesn't need to be 100% accurate, because some people won't understand the way that they're talking, especially if you're writing something in, say, Scottish or Irish history, the way that they speak and the words that they use, people aren't necessarily going to understand it. But in the majority, do try and keep it as realistic as possible and do your research on the way that they spoke at that point as well. Movies are fantastic for this as well. They usually get it very, very accurate, so do check that out as well. You also do want to, well, sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. Research and cultural norms would be the next one. So you want to familiarize yourself with cultural norms, customs, traditions, um, social hierarchy as well. Make sure that you do understand all of that as well, because if you don't understand it during the writing process, you might need to go back and check something out or read something again. Make sure you understand it before you start writing, because that's going to make the writing process a lot easier and a lot smoother. You might not even have to go in and do your research midway through a paragraph because you didn't quite understand how a social hierarchy worked at that moment in time. We also do want to incorporate historical events. So by integrating real and historical events seamlessly into your narrative, it anchors the story in a historical context, and it provides backdrop for the characters for the characters' experiences and decisions. So again, make sure that you do incorporate at least some historical events or some historical feature that happened, or people even do some Easter eggs. If you're writing something in maybe about World War II, incorporate a historical or a person that was relevant in World War II. Add a little Easter egg here and there. It doesn't, again, it's fiction. It doesn't need to be 100% accurate, but something like that gets a reader excited. We also do have character integration. This basically helps develop characters that resonate with historical settings by aligning the beliefs, values, and personal experiences with the societal norms and challenges of that time period. The next bullet point, I believe this is number 6, is sensory details. So engage the senses by including details such as sounds, smells, tastes, textures specific to that historical setting. If in whatever time period you want to write your book in, things were usually built out of stone, include that, because that is more often than not, people who are going to read historical fiction are interested in fiction in general. And as soon as they find out that, oh, everything is built out of stone, they're immediately going to be placed in that setting. And finally, we have show, don't tell, which is a rule just in general with all fiction writing, but specifically to historical fiction. You want to use showing rather than telling to reveal the historical setting organically through character actions, interactions, and observations. If you're writing a history lesson with at the start of a chapter, readers aren't going to be that interested because they may already know that part of the story. They want to read something new, something fresh. Alrighty, next up we have character development. Now, why is character development important? First, it enhances a reader's engagement. Compelling characters in historical epics, and they have to captivate a reader's interest and emotions. fostering a deep connection to the story and its historical context. You also want to humanize history. We've gone over this, but specifically characters. A well developed character brings historical events to life by personalizing past, the past and humanizing historical figures. We also have complexity and depth. Complex or compelling characters enriches the narrative by adding complexity, depth, and layers of personality. So, characters with nuanced motivations, conflicts, and growth arcs elevate the storytelling, and it just creates a dynamic interaction and character driven plot lines that really do resonate with readers. We also have reflecting historical realities. Now, characters in historical events or historical epics can serve as a reflection of the societal norms, values, and challenges of that specific time period. And by portraying characters that grapple with historical realities, such as social hierarchies, political upheavals, or other cultural shifts, writers deepen the authenticity of the story and the historical backdrop. And then finally, we do have the emotional impact. So basically, a memorable character, okay, can evoke emotional responses from readers and elicit empathy, admiration, and even controversy. Characters who undergo personal transformations, confront moral dilemmas, or make significant choices within those historical events uh, that leave it basically leaves an impression on the reader. So do make sure that whenever you are writing a character, they at least leave some emotional impact. Make the reader question some things. Play with controversy, play with admiration, play with that sort of thing. Um, it's the world is your oyster when it comes to this. Okay, next up we have tips for creating multi-dimensional characters. Now let me just make sure. There we go. Okay, so character backstories. This is crucial to any story, especially historical fiction. Okay, you want your protagonist and your antagonist to have a backstory, have something that they've experienced before, make them human. We don't know anything that happened in certain people's past of historically relevant people. We don't know that. Create that. Make a reader connect with the character, and by using backstories, it's an easy way to do that. You also want conflicting motivations. So give your protagonist and antagonist conflicting motivations and goals that are rooted in the historical setting. Show how their desires, their fears, their aspirations are shaped by a societal norm or event or a challenge of that time period. This leads to a massively complex character dynamic between the protagonist and the antagonist. Next, we have internal conflict, your little internal monologue saying you should do something. One voice says one thing, the other voice says something else. Make sure that you incorporate internal conflict as well. Basically, you just have them struggle with decisions, have them have them conflicted allegiances to societal norms or personal values, or or even yeah, basically, um, basically just have them wonder about things and question things and wonder, are they doing the right thing? Are they not doing the right thing? Make them argue with themselves, because we as humans do that every single day of our lives. Even if we might not realize it, we do. And that of course is how we end up making decisions. And by doing this, you again are going to humanize your characters. And of course, a good antagonist is human. A good antagonist, you can kind of say, oh, maybe he has a point. maybe there's something I can see why that person made the decision that they did. That is a fantastic antagonist. So incorporate that into your character development as well. Next, we have character growth. So no person stays in the same mentality all of their lives. When they're going through something traumatic or an event that changes their lives, they're going to grow as a person as well. So you want to incorporate that as well. And then we have oh my goodness, this word is a tongue twister for me. Ambiguity and shades of gray. Um, Again, as I mentioned, with an antagonist specifically, you want to say, oh, maybe he has a point. Maybe there's something to it. You can see why they do this. Your character, your protagonist, your main character as well, if they're doing something questionable, there needs to be something that makes you think, okay, I can see why this character is doing this. There needs to be a gray area where something happens and you kind of have to question why they're doing it, or would you do the same thing. Again, it just makes them human. People do questionable things all the time. There are a lot of things that are morally gray that a lot of people do, and by incorporating that into your book, it doesn't need to be extreme, but by incorporating that into your book, you are going to make them more relatable as well. Next up, we have plot structure and storytelling. Now, what are the elements of an effective plot structure? First, it's going to be the introduction to the historical context. Okay, establish the historical setting and context early in the plot to orient the readers to the time period, events, social dynamics, that sort of thing. Make sure that it is apparent from the get go when your story is taking place, where it is taking place. You don't have to have your first chapter just be a world building chapter, but again, like I mentioned earlier, if the time period that you are in and the place where where your book is based is everything is built out of stone, that is already going to give the reader an idea of where and when the story is taking place. Next, integrating historical events. I mentioned this earlier as well. You basically want to seamlessly weave historical events and conflicts and milestones into the plot and make it as accurate as possible while still making it entertaining and adding your own little bit of flair into it as well. We also have character arcs and development. So the more your character grows, the more there's some development and inner dialogue with your character, the more the reader is going to actually connect with the character and the situation that they're in. They're going to get some empathy for the character, or they're going to say, okay, this character is being a little bit dramatic, you need to tone it down a little bit. And through that, the character can grow and basically view things in a much better light and maybe not be as dramatic about certain things. As long as your character grows in the plot and in the story, you are going to have amazing character arcs and development. We also have conflict and tension. What is a what's a fiction book without conflict and tension? There always has to be a bad guy. Well, not always, but if traditionally there always needs to be a bad guy, there always needs to be a big bad that somebody has to beat or overcome or escape from. Um, and with historical fiction, it is extremely important to make the bad situation or the bad person solidify them in the story and create create conflict around that concept. And then finally we have resolution and reflection. So if you're just doing a standalone novel, you don't want a cliffhanger. Nobody wants to just finish a book and there's a cliffhanger. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. I read something the other day that was recommended to me on BookTok, and I was so angry. I had to put it down, and I had to go take a bath. I was incredibly angry. So, and there aren't more books to come. That's the only book in the series, but it leaves the conclusion up to the reader. And in my case, I don't like doing that. A lot of people don't enjoy a book that leaves the ending open. They want to know what happens to that character. They don't want to wonder the entire time. They've dedicated many, many hours to a book and to a character where they've actually connected to the character. So do ensure that you do have a resolution at the very end and just have your character reflect a little bit on their journey, how they got to where they are now, and give them a little hope for the future as well. And then we have weaving historical events into engaging narratives. So first off, we have selective incorporation. So as I mentioned earlier, you want to add historical events to your book. They need to be relevant, of course, but you want to add them to your book. But be very selective about what you do add. Make sure that it is actually going to be relevant to your character and your character growth and where they need to end up in the end of your book as well. So you don't have to add everything. If there isn't something that's not relevant to your character, good rule of thumb is to not add it and add an historical event somewhere else instead. So be extremely picky with what you do add because that is going to set the stage for your book. Also have character perspective. So you want to show the world and show historical events through the eyes of your characters, of somebody who's lived through them. Um, Make it personal, make it emotional. The reactions of the events unfolding before them need to be real. They need to be real people. Again, because historical fiction is it's not as fiction as a fantasy novel, for example, or science fiction, or even romance for that matter. Historical fiction is very accurate, and it is very personal and very emotional as well. We also do have parallel storylines. So basically, by intertwining the characters' personal stories with the timeline of your historical event, it basically creates a parallel storyline that intersects and influences each other. So if you have multiple characters, have them cross paths. Maybe one person's decision is affecting somebody else's. Maybe the antagonist's decision is affecting the protagonist, or vice versa. But parallel storylines are really important in historical fiction as well. Um, it also gives it a more intertwined it intertwines them with a more broader historical context. Okay, so it's again it is super super important. Even if it's not a character's stories, if it's the story of that specific event, intertwine them with the characters as well, make it relevant to that character. Foreshadowing is basically hinting to an upcoming event in all fiction books. But for historical fiction, it hints to an upcoming historical event or change. Maybe it's a build up to a great war. Maybe it's the build up to a famous person being assassinated. Maybe it's something like that, and you can foreshadow that. You can say, okay, well, the weather was this and this and this and this. You heard people in the background chattering. Um, End the chapter there because the reader is going to know, okay, this is taking place at a rally or in the courtyard at a palace, something like that. And because people who read historical fiction are usually people who like fiction in general, they will know what is coming because you've already foreshadowed that specific event throughout the rest of the book. And of course, that's very exciting. As soon as a reader can kind of say, okay, well, this is going to happen. I wonder how the reader is going to incorporate this. you know your book is good. We also have conflict and stakes. The main character is not going to do anything if there isn't something at stake. Let's be honest. They need a motivation to do something or to get somewhere or to get away from something. And you can use historical events as sources of conflict and stakes to propel the story forward. Show how character goals and relationships and beliefs are challenged and transformed by the historical events. This just adds tension and complexity to the narrative. We also have personal impact. So explore the personal impact of historical events on the characters' lives, relationships, aspirations, dreams that they might have had of a better future, and now it's just destroyed, and they have to build everything up again from there. Again, this is going to create some connection with the reader and the character. We also have incorporated details. So you want to integrate authentic historical details, settings, and customs related to that time and place to portray a creative and vivid and realistic depiction of that time period. And finally, we have emotional resonance. So, infuse historical events with emotional resonance by depicting the human emotions, struggles, and triumphs associated with them. Put yourself in that position and think, how will I react to something like this happen? What kind of impact does that have on me as a writer or as a or a lawyer or whatever you are, whatever your character is, how would you react to that? And that's usually a very good way to have your character react as well. When I'm writing my personal books, at least, I like to put myself in that situation and I like to have the character react how I would react in those situations. And that makes it a lot more realistic. It makes it easier to write. And because it is a way that a human would react, it is humanizing those characters as well. Alrighty, well, that is it. I don't think we're going to have time for the little music or the workshop that we had planned. But maybe if you guys are interested in having a little writing workshop or an analysis of specific books or books in the genre that you'd like to do, please do let us know. We are more than happy to look into it and maybe do something like that in the future. So just give us a shout, pop it in the comments, shoot us a message, whatever you want to do. Let us know if you are interested in something like that. So when you are writing, do go and check out Dibbly Create. This is an amazing content creation tool where you can do research while you are writing. It is AI powered. Kip, our little AI helper, is absolutely fantastic. If you have a question, if you're doing something, do go ahead and check and just check out the 7-day free trial. There isn't any commitment to it. Check it out, see what kind of research you can do while you are writing. This is very, very, very good for historical fiction books, especially because you can do a lot of research without switching tabs and that sort of thing. And you can also just copy and paste anything and refer back to it afterwards. Everything is saved. It is really, really awesome. Alrighty, we can hop into questions. So if you do have any questions, do pop them in the comments section, comment section below. We are more than happy to go over anything. There are a couple of questions that I've seen so far, so we're going to pop them on the screen and then I'll answer them. And again, if we don't get to your questions, we will respond to you afterwards, either via DM or we'll reply to your comments. So yeah, do let us know if you do have any questions or concerns. You can also go ahead and reach out to us at sales@dibbly.com. We are going to put that on the screen as well after the Q&A section. You're more than welcome to reach out to us there. Okay, for our first question. Um, Let me see here. What are effective marketing strategies for promoting a self-published historical fiction epic? Okay, so of course, like any other, when you are publishing any other book, utilize social media, book blogs, author websites, book launch events, collaborate with historical fiction communities. If there are some blogs or websites that are dedicated to historical events, reach out to them and see if you can collaborate with them. Um, with any book that you are writing, reach out to the two people that are in that specific line of work as well. It is a very, very good way to get an audience very quickly because those people are already interested in that specific topic. Aside from, of course, your keywords and things like utilizing the Amazon algorithm, we do have a webinar on that as well. So do go ahead and check that out. But yeah, if you're looking at fiction or historical fiction specifically, best advice that I can give you is just to go and collaborate with people that actually are in the fiction community, people that run blogs or YouTube channels or TikToks, that sort of thing. It's a very good way to get into that or get a quick audience. Okay, what services do you offer on the Urban Writers? So we do everything from outline, again, all the way through to audiobooks. So we do the outline. You can come to us with as little as a title and subtitle, and we can do the rest for you. We can do the entire plot for you. And then, of course, you can view the content the entire time it's being written, approve it, work with the freelancer as well. And then once that is approved, we can do the writing, the editing, the ebook and paperback formatting, book descriptions, cover designs, illustrations. We do the narrations as well, and we do SEO content too. So we basically do everything that you need in order to publish. All you have to do is download the content and go and publish it yourself. Um, how do I conduct research for historical accuracy in my novels? Okay, so you want to again conduct thorough research through the books, documentaries, history archives, and contact experts in that field as well to accurately portray historical settings, events, details, places, that sort of thing. Um, Reach out to people if you have a professor, a friend in history. Reach out to them, get some details from them as well. Watch documentaries. There are so many documentaries that you can go through about specific historical events, multiple ones on one specific event. Definitely do go ahead and check that out. And of course, you can definitely utilize AI as well because it basically just compacts all of that research into one coherent answer. Um, okay, then let me just go ahead and check this out. Should I incorporate real historical figures into my story? Yes. So, well, it's a yes and no question or answer. If you're specifically focusing on historical events, you are welcome to make up characters. You don't need actually historical figures in that book. If you're focusing on a character which an event happened to, then of course actually incorporate an historical figure. And it is always good to here and there maybe add something, add an Easter egg, maybe add an event where somebody gets assassinated or just walks into a character that's historical relevance, or if they have to. I wrote historical one of my own personal books a while ago. I had a character. It was based on an historical event, and they kind of just walked into a philosopher. I don't know if you guys know of Diogenes, but they basically just walked into Diogenes in the streets, and it wasn't it. Diogenes didn't play a relevant part in the book, but it was just a very cute little Easter egg that I thought I'd added, because in that time period he was very, very, very relevant, and it makes sure that it kind of solidifies what the book is about, and what time period it is in. Okay, we have time for one more question. Let's see. How can I balance factual accuracy with storytelling creativity in historical fiction? This is this is a very good question. um, the balance, there is a very, very, very fine balance. Um, you want your book to still be accurate, and you want an event or a character to be recognizable, but you have full creative freedom throughout the rest of the book. If you want to add more characters, if you want to add a love interest, if you want to add different places that this specific character went to that isn't real, you can incorporate that because you already have some parts of your historical fiction book written. Since it is fiction, can you add your own spin to the story, whether it was part of your research or not? Yes. So you can literally go ahead and put a spin on it. This is very relevant to the question right now. It's You can definitely put your own spin on it. There are a lot of books where they do, or even fairy tale retellings, where the main story is there, and it's very, very recognizable because if it's Snow White, it looks like Snow White. Her name is Snow White. The base story is there, but there's a massive plot twist and um, what's the word? A spin. That's the word that you used. A massive spin on the story, and it adds some plots and um, some interest here or there. Nobody wants to read something that they've read a million times before. They want something fresh. So you can definitely put a spin on it as long as it is still accurate in the most part. Alrighty, so I believe that is it for the moment. If we didn't get to your questions, we will get back to you. Yeah, but basically, our next workshop is about book descriptions and formatting. It is on the 15th of August at 11 a.m. EST, the same time as it was today. The link is in the description as well as the comment section on YouTube. So do go ahead, check that out. You can go in and register for that. And yeah, if you do have any questions or concerns or anything that you'd like us to cover in that as well, do let us know. We're happy to incorporate it as well as we can. Alrighty, that's it from me, everybody. Have an absolutely wonderful day ahead. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you guys in the next